Cairo, starring Johnny Carson, will be seen immediately following this NBC News special.
All indications are tonight that 32 of these American hostages who've been held for 2 weeks will take a big step toward freedom in a few hours. Syrian government officials say they'll be moved from Beirut to Damascus by tomorrow. Officials in Washington are hopeful the hostages will be freed shortly after they reach Syria.
Hostage. Tonight, a possible exit to Syria. Here is Roger Mudd in New York.
Good evening. The TWA hostage crisis, which has galvanized and dominated the country for the past 2 weeks, appears to be nearing an end. Syrian government officials in Damascus said tonight that the TWA hostages, no precise number given, would be arriving in Damascus tomorrow and would be made available to the press about midday Damascus time. That's before dawn Eastern time. These Syrian reports followed what appeared to be a farewell dinner in Beirut that Nabi Berri and his Amal militia gave the hostages in one of the city's luxury hotels, the Summerland. Most of the hostages sensed they would soon be on their way. For 36 hours, this crisis seemed stalled. It apparently was during this period that the parties involved, the Amal militia, the Reagan administration, the Israelis, the Syrians, and the United Nations, worked out the fine details of the deal in the back channels. Then early this afternoon, events began to break so rapidly that no one has quite caught up. Tom Brokaw is in Beirut tonight. Tom, can you bring us up to date?
Roger, I'll do the best that I can. I think that the key phrase that you had refers to the number of hostages who will be able to go on to Syria at what hour we don't know. There remains a question not just about the 7 Americans who were kidnapped over the past couple of years, but about 7 American hostages who were not at the dinner tonight. That includes the 3 crew members on the TWA plane, Testrake, Zimmerman, and Moresco. And then, as we have it from ABC, because this dinner had occurred at a hotel where they're headquartered, Richard Herzberg, Tony Watson, Jeffrey Ingalls, and Robert Gordon Brown were not at the dinner tonight as well. I spoke just a few moments ago with an Amal spokesman. He said that Mr. Berri has a promise from the hijackers who are holding these American hostages that they will be released with the 32 others. But then he went on to add, we cannot be sure. We can only hope. So we believe that 32 of the hostages, at least, will be going to Syria. The remaining 7, we will not know until they actually are there.
Are the 7 the ones, Tom, that are in the hands of the Party of God Shiites, the Hezbollah?
Well, we think that it's Hezbollah. They certainly are in the hands of the people who were the hijackers. The 3 crewmen on board the plane are in those hands, and we think that the other 4 are as well. We cannot be certain. They are saying here at Amal headquarters that the kidnappers have promised us, and they're referring then to what we think is the more radical organization, Roger.
Tom, you were covering that banquet tonight. Was there unrestrained joy, or are they still a little reluctant to believe that they're leaving, those hostages?
If I may just put something that you said in some context, Roger, they were very reluctant to say that they are going to Syria. They were told only that they were going back to sleep where they had spent these many previous nights. A few of them indicated that they thought they would be going to Syria, but by and large, as a group, they would say individually and collectively, we don't know where we're going. They do that, I think, as a kind of psychological guard because they've had their hopes dashed so many times. The reports about Syria came from Syria and from some of the armed militia members who were guarding them and riding in the front seat. All the indications are that they're going to Syria. But these people were very restrained, and they made a point to us that they've learned not to get their hopes too high.
Thank you, Tom. Tom Brokaw reporting from Beirut. Every indication points to an overland route for these hostages from Beirut to Damascus. It's about 25 miles from Beirut to the Syrian border, but the hostages will actually pass into Syrian-controlled territory sooner than that when the road enters the Bekaa Valley. Altogether, it's about 50 miles from Beirut to Damascus, a drive through some rough terrain that takes somewhat over 2 hours. Now, in Damascus tonight is David Phillips. David, can you tell us what you know about the arrangements tomorrow, what details the government has made public?
The only source for saying that the hostages are definitely coming here is a top official in the Syrian television. He's saying that the media will see the hostages at a Damascus hotel around noon local time today, and we're 7 hours ahead of you. There are no official details here yet, but but then it's 06:30 in the morning, and the government offices are not fired up. Probably the first official details to come out will be from a press conference, which is due to be given sometime this morning at the Ministry of Information. Meanwhile, though, the United States Embassy here has been buzzing throughout the night. An NBC reporter, Phil Bremen, went over there, and you'll be seeing shots later on the NBC special of the embassy ablaze and unusual activity for this time of the morning taking place. So we can assume that if the official Syrian television is right, if the embassy is ablaze and buzzing at this time of the morning, then those hostages are heading here.
Do you have any idea, David, which hotel they will be rendezvousing at?
Yes, journalists staying in the Sheraton are telling us that that's where they will be displayed to the press. But it is not clear, it's doubtful that the Sheraton will be where they stay. The NBC's Damascus bureau say that from past experience, that the hostages will probably be taken to the officers' club here.
All right, David, thank you for your report. David Phillips reporting from Damascus, Syria. At the White House tonight, the mood, as you might imagine, was one of optimism. President Reagan met late today with his top security advisors after exchanging messages with Syria's President Assad, messages that apparently paved the way for the hostages to be moved to Damascus. Chris Wallace is at the White House. Chris?
Roger, there is still no official confirmation here, but there continue to be encouraging signs. White House officials say that after checking those Syrian reports, that they are much more optimistic that some or all of the 39 TWA hostages will go to Syria tomorrow and will be released within 24 hours. Having said that, officials here are still very cautious, especially cautious about release of those other 7 American kidnap victims who have been held for as long as a year. White House officials tonight are pointing out that they have always said that those 7 others are being held by different and more extreme groups than the 39 TWA hostages, so they seem to be preparing us for the possibility that those 7 won't come out with the TWA hostages. Having said all that, there is still a great mood of excitement here tonight, Roger. As you said, the president returned late this afternoon to the White House from a trip to Chicago and went directly into an hour-long meeting with top national security advisors in the White House Situation Room. National Security Advisor McFarlane monitored the situation late into the evening. He has left now, but he and other top officials are expected back around 2 a.m. to see what the morning brings. So, Roger, there is a real sense of excitement here as officials hope and expect that some, if not all of the Americans, will be out of Lebanon tomorrow and on their way to freedom.
Chris, I thought that the administration had laid down new conditions for a deal, and that deal had to include those 7 who have been held over the past 12 or 15 months. What happened to that?
Well, the point they're making here tonight is they want all 46 out, and if they don't get them out, they'll continue to press for them. But they have never said that if they don't get all 46, they're not going to accept the 39, and that's the point that they're making tonight. They'll take what they can get.
Thank you, Chris. Chris Wallace reporting from the White House. Now, Marvin Kalb is at the State Department. Can you give me some details, Marvin, on the actual release as it's going to happen in Damascus? Do you know anything about that?
Well, Roger, let me just fill you in on what we're being told here. We're being told that the U.S. government is working on the assumption that 39 American hostages are going to be sent to Damascus tomorrow, Saturday. What about the other 7? They say they don't know about the other 7. Was any deal struck? They claim no deal was struck. What does the other side get? They have no comment on what the other side will get. How long will the American hostages stay in Damascus? We're told they are not sure exactly what will happen when they get to Damascus, but an official said he thinks there will be a very rapid, a very quick turnover. I am adding, on the basis of speculation only, that they may very well go by way of a U.S. military base near Frankfurt in West Germany. The deal came together, we are told, early this evening. What is the price? From one source here in Washington who knows a good bit about Israeli thinking, it is said that this is what may happen, that Israel will meet, its cabinet will meet, either on Saturday evening or on Sunday morning. At that time, they will come to a decision as to whether they will release all of the Lebanese prisoners they hold near Haifa. I am told that as a goodwill gesture, Israel may very well decide to release them all. It is pointed out that President Reagan earlier today in Chicago said he is working on an assumption, or the U.S. had always believed that Israel intended to release all of them, and that was very clear. It all ends up that if Syria is going to be the key figure, the key state in arranging the release of the American hostages, it makes it extremely difficult for the United States to think about retaliating when this is all over against Syrian targets in Lebanon, against Syria itself, against terrorist bases in Syria.
So then, Marvin, Israel winds up the loser and Syria the winner. Is that what I'm to conclude?
Well, I'm not sure it's one or the other. Syria ends up, for its own reasons, having done what it did, getting the hostages out. Israel had always intended to release the Lebanese prisoners. It was a question of when. The U.S. and the Israeli governments have not wanted to seem to be caving in to terrorism. They have not wanted what the president has called linkage. And so they will claim when it's all over that there is no linkage. But the fact seems to be that Israel, as a goodwill gesture, will probably, at the cabinet meeting Saturday night or Sunday, decide, we are told, to release all of the Lebanese prisoners.
Thank you, Marvin. Marvin Kalb reporting from the State Department. There is a great deal of activity in Damascus tonight, as David Phillips reported, as preparations are underway to receive the hostages, according to the Syrian reports. This is the American Embassy in Damascus during the early morning hours, ablaze with lights, a busy place. This embassy will doubtless get busier if and when the hostages arrive in Damascus. The United States did not have an embassy there between 1967 and 1974 because of differences over U.S. support of Israel. Relations have been chilly since the embassy was reopened during the Nixon administration, but now both countries seem to have found a common interest in the release of those hostages. And finally this evening, Jimmy Del Palmer, the hostage freed the other day because of his heart condition, got back to Little Rock tonight. A crowd of 200 was at the airport to greet him when he got off, and he got off, sure enough, a TWA plane. A jazz band played Tie a Yellow Ribbon. Mr. Palmer said, "I did try to collect some of my thoughts on the way home, but I don't think I can even think about them." He did say, the American people are the greatest people because they love freedom. NBC News will continue monitoring the events in Beirut and Damascus throughout the night. We'll have full reports as the events develop. I'm Roger Mudd in New York. Good night for NBC News.
This has been an NBC News special.